The story begins in a dark and squalid apartment, filled with clutter. Garbage bags are strewn about, making it difficult to walk. The window panes are so grimy that barely any light penetrates from the outside. Old calendar pages are taped to the walls to help keep track of the date. A young man named Atsuro Krosa lives in this apartment. He has been suffering from severe social withdrawal and depression after failing to gain admission to a university. He has cut off everyone in his life, including his parents. Atsuro believes his existence is meaningless, that nothing new ever happens, and that everything has lost its charm. One day, while lying in bed recalling the digits of pi, he decides to commit the unthinkable. He wraps a belt around his neck and ties the other end to a shelf. The moment he lets his body hang, he begins to struggle for breath, thrashing about. The force of his struggle causes the shelf to break away from the wall and fall on top of him. Having survived, Atsuro catches his breath and notices a sliver of light entering the room. It turns out the broken shelf has created a small hole in the wall, connecting to the adjacent apartment. He peeks through the hole and sees his beautiful neighbor, Rio Miyachi. Atsuro is mesmerized by her and watches her as she enjoys her meal. From Rio's side, the hole is almost unnoticeable as it is hidden behind a bookshelf. From that day on, Atsuro begins to observe Rio's daily life. He is astonished to think that such a beautiful girl lives right next to him. The next day, Rio heads out carrying a bag and some books. Seeing this, Atsuro assumes she is a student. Atsuro eats the last of his food, a few cheap snacks. Bored and curious, he spends the entire day watching Rio, noticing that she only leaves the apartment to attend classes and never seems to meet anyone. Atsuro concludes she probably has no friends. One day, while Atsuro is spying, Rio suddenly disappears from view. Desperate to find out where she has gone, Atsuro steps out of his apartment for the first time in a long while. He goes to Rio's door and tries to listen for any sound. As he attempts to peek through the mail slot, he notices a girl downstairs watching his strange behavior. The girl, Haruko Kawasaki, had come to check on her brother, who lives in the apartment below. Just then, the scent of delicious food reaches Atsuro's nose. It turns out Haruko had brought food for her brother, but after getting no response, she leaves the bag of food hanging on the doorknob and walks away. Atsuro seizes the opportunity, stealing the bag in the hope of eating some real food. He opens the bag and takes a few bites before he is interrupted again. This time, it is Rio herself, staring at him. After a brief introduction, Rio learns that Atsuro is her neighbor. She then invites him to her apartment for lunch. Atsuro quickly agrees. While Rio is preparing the food, Atsuro looks around her apartment and finds the hole in the wall. Just then, Rio enters the room and comments on his loose trouser strings. Afterward, they enjoy a delicious home-cooked meal together. When Rio tells him they should hang out again, Atsuro returns to his apartment in a surprisingly good mood. From that day on, Atsuro starts visiting Rio frequently for meals, though he continues to spy on her secretly. One day, he musters the courage to ask her why she wants to spend time with someone like him. Atsuro reveals that he has quit his prep school and doesn't have a job. Rio mentions that they have formed a deep connection in a short amount of time, which means a lot to her. Her words deeply touch Atsuro. After quickly finishing his food, Atsuro rushes back to his apartment. He decides to stop watching Rio and gently covers the hole with a piece of paper and a thumbtack. A storm hits that night. Atsuro sits alone in his room, desperately trying to find a reason to remove the paper. Just then, he hears Rio's door open in the middle of the night. He quickly removes the paper and sees Rio entering her room. She is wearing a transparent raincoat and holding a cutter. A few moments later, a man in a suit follows her in. As the man embraces her from behind, Rio attacks him with swift martial arts moves. She slits his throat and brutally kills him, his blood splashing onto her raincoat. She smiles cunningly. Seeing this, Atsuro is terrified. In his panic, he accidentally bumps against the wall. This causes a book to fall from Rio's shelf, blocking his view. Soon, a mysterious van arrives, and a couple of men carry boxes up to Rio's apartment. Back in his room, Atsuro is bewildered, trying to make sense of what he just saw. A few moments later, he hears a knock on his door. It's Rio, dressed cutely and looking completely normal. She holds a pot of food and has a big smile on her face. She asks if they can sometimes eat together in his apartment. After clearing some space and lighting a few candles, they set the table. Rio is calm and composed as she eats. In contrast, Atsuro still can't wrap his head around the fact that Rio just killed someone while eating. Rio brings up Atsuro's earlier question and tells him not to be anxious. She says that after being alone for a long time, people start to question their sanity, but being with Atsuro makes her feel normal. After Rio leaves, Atsuro uses a chopstick to knock over the book that was blocking his view. He looks around her room and sees Rio enjoying some tea. With everything looking normal, he assumes he must have been hallucinating and that none of last night's events actually happened. A moment later, a voice says goodbye to Rio. Atsuro rushes to his door to see who the person is. Just then, a mysterious woman named Reina Magi walks past his door, looks back, and sees Atsuro standing there. Atsuro quickly shuts the door. Reina calls his name, pauses for a moment, and then leaves. The next morning, Atsuro runs into Rio on her way to university. She offers him the use of her washing machine and asks to eat at his place again. While washing his clothes, Atsuro recalls the murder scene, but his admiration for Rio misleads him once more. Looking forward to eating together, Atsuro rushes home, cleans up, and sets the table. Later that night, while waiting for Rio, he hears her apartment door open. He peeks through the hole and sees Rio killing another man, this one with a B tattoo on his arm. Just like before, she wears the raincoat, uses her kung fu skills to slit the man's throat, and then smiles cunningly. Atsuro quickly realizes it's not a hallucination. Rio is actually bringing men to her house and killing them. Shocked, Atsuro screams, which draws Rio's attention to the hole. She shoves her box cutter through it and looks directly at him. Terrified, Atsuro runs out of the apartment, and Rio chases him through the streets with the cutter in hand. Using an emergency exit, he reaches the rooftop of a building, but Rio quickly catches up and traps him there. She asks if he saw her kill the man. Atsuro admits he has been watching her for some time and already knew she was a killer. Rio finds it interesting that he still came over to eat with her despite knowing this. She then moves to kill him. However, Atsuro explains that he once tried to end his life by hanging. That's when he found the hole in the wall and saw her. He immediately fell in love with her and realized that being with her felt better than dying. After discovering that Rio is indeed a killer, Atsuro becomes hopeless again. He drops to his knees and closes his eyes, ready for her to kill him. Surprised by Atsuro's thoughts, Rio approaches him with the cutter. She grabs him and puts the cutter to his neck. Fascinated by his lack of reaction, she doesn't kill him. When asked how he feels, Atsuro says he wants to date her. Surprisingly, Rio agrees and proceeds to lick the blood from a bruise on Atsuro's lip that he got while running away. Just as Atsuro is about to kiss her, she stops him and asks him to continue spying on her. The next day, Haruko finally gets to meet her brother, Kawasaki, who is happily playing with a cat. She urges her brother to stay in contact with them, as their parents are worried. After giving him the food she brought, she notices Atsuro on the terrace and greets him. Later, Atsuro uses Rio's washing machine to do his laundry. Afterward, the two of them have lunch at his place. Rio is surprised at how clearly Atsuro could see through the hole. Atsuro apologizes and promises to patch it up, but Rio stops him. Atsuro can't believe he's dating a girl as beautiful as Rio. He then tells her that he likes everything about her, leaving her a little embarrassed. He promises to get a job to be a better boyfriend. Atsuro ends up working at a convenience store, but every time he uses a box cutter, he can't help but think about Rio brutally killing those men. Despite this, he continues to date her. One night, Atsuro comes home and sees Rio waiting for him by the hole. Atsuro feels it would be better if they were together in the same room. However, Rio believes that now that they are dating, They shouldn't be in the same room at night. She then asks him to accompany her to the university the next day. It turns out she just wanted him to carry her microwave to the university because the one in her lab had stopped working. After being isolated for so long, Atsuro feels self-conscious around so many people. Just being at the university triggers his insecurities, but he gets over it when Rio proudly introduces him as her boyfriend to her classmates and friends. During lunch, he lovingly looks at Rio, thinking he's the first guy she has ever dated. He then tells her about his plan to retake the entrance exam next year. He wants to become a better person for her, someone who deserves to be with her, because he can't imagine a future without her. Rio just laughs, amused by the idea that he thinks he needs to be good enough for someone like her. She reminds him that she's a murderer with no intention of stopping. She tells him that she has been doing this for a long time. Later, after class, Rio asks if he's hungry. On the way to the restaurant, everything